Good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to all of you in this session. I am Isha Babbar, your host for the day. This session and this insight, PMO Insight, is a little bit more special this time, is because of the collaboration that we have with the PMO leader. And we are doing this show together. This session is even more working towards the betterment of our PMO Insight sessions going forward. This is in our series. This is the fourth of the session that we are doing in our PMO Insights series, and we'll talk about we have had a word and a talk about different topics in the past. This time we have brought a very challenging and very interesting topic. Does anyone knows what is the topic of today for PMO Insight discussion? Anyone wants to volunteer? Anyone wants to write in the chat window so that we all know what's the topic of discussion today? Thank you, Gaurav. And while Gaurav has already written, I'm sure everybody would have seen it that we are talking about transformation of PMO from cost center to value center. And very interesting as well as very challenging topic. Generally, in current scenarios, in Indian industries as well as in globally, PMO is considered as a cost center who adds up value, but not infinite value to a company when we talk about other costs and other channels, as especially sales channels, other especially IT channels and other channels which are acting as an enabler. So how do we transform our PMO from a cost center to value center? We have invited our guest for tonight, Manoj Thomas, who is a senior manager for strategic initiatives with a career spanning over 20 years and varied experiences. Manoj thrives on managing transformational challenges and operational improvements, and his feedback, and he will be giving us insights on this topic of discussion for today, which talks about transformation of PMO from cost center to value center. I'll now invite Manoj. Thank you for joining us for this session, and over to you.
Thank you, Isha. Let me just quickly share my screen. I hope you all can see.
Yes, we can see.
That's very nice. Okay. Good evening. So I'm happy to be in the office to do this session. And I also understand from Isha that this is a piloting it on a weekday and a Friday. So I'm happy that I'm part of this pilot. But yeah, I just want to thank some of the people before I even start. Thanks to Karthik, thanks to Gaurang, Isha, and especially to Gaurav. You've been really chasing me and really keep the communication going. I really thank you for this opportunity, and hopefully today what I want to share is what I've been through, and I'm sure that will help you understand some of the nuances of the PMO operations and how it can scale. So as Isha said, I'm Manoj Thomas. I lead the strategy office for the PMC India operations. Basically responsible for aligning vision and strategy of the organization and basically bringing it to life through execution. The best part of my job is, connecting answers to workplace problems, really building trust among the varied stakeholders across the organization. So if you look at the slide, I didn't call it cost to value. I call it good to great. There's a reason for that. I mean, sometimes when we speak about cost, we forget the fact that the foundations of which all started with cost centers outside of our global centers. It all started with cost, where cost arbitrage was the major focus initially when organizations built offices in India and other parts of the world. So there is a lot of value that is created from the cost center that we all were part of at some part of our organization. If you are closer to my age, but I think there is value in all that they did. That is good, and obviously the challenge is how do we add value by becoming great, and I think that is where we need to bridge the gap, and that is and in my conversations I'm trying to do that. Also, if you have a mobile phone or a laptop, that will be good. I'm just taking 2 or 3 quizzes and quickly to understand the perspective from you. Over to the content then. So I've just prepared this agenda and hoping to cover most of it. But I think the focus here is that we are going to talk about what are the aspirations of a value center. A quick introduction to most of you are aware of it, a global capability center. We'll talk about how do you move from a cost to a value center. What is it exactly? Role of the strategy office. I think here we can talk about some of the things that I do and best practices that I can share, and then a case study from BMC. I represent BMC software, and we can definitely take some questions at the end. So let's dive in. Okay, to make the change from the cost to value, we'll need a combination of personas. So there could be millions of personas here, but I'm just talking about two personas here. One is a project leader who we all are, typical PMOs. We ensure projects are successful, they meet the goals, they meet the objectives. But I also want to introduce you to change makers. Typically, all overlaps within the roles. But who's a change maker? So I want to define a change maker as a person who wants to turn an idea into reality, basically trying to drive positive change, and somebody who wants to, just given a vision, wants to see how that vision can be brought into reality. And all these personas are within all that we do daily. But today we are going to discuss these two personas, and I have some suggestions on how these personas can add value to the existing place that we are, and also to what we can do, together as a community. I'm sure we are part of different communities. What we can do together as a community. Okay, so audience question, and if you have a mobile phone, if you have a laptop, if you can scan the QR code or go to menti.com, and if you can key in that number of 6412735. The question is, what are some of the problems your PMO is solving for the organization? Let me know, and it'll all come up here. Let me know if there's a challenge and you're not able to scan the code. You should be able to see this first slide. Isha, you're able to see it?
Yes, Manoj.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, it's a Friday evening in India, so it's a challenge again to more questions, but I'm sure we're getting up somewhere. Communication processes. Thank you. Strategic alignment, value delivery, prioritization, great points, great points. Aligning strategy to projects. Okay, great. I think these are great answers. Let me, aligning value delivery, structure, guidance, okay. Okay, let me just go back to the presentation. Thank you for the answers. I mean, these are all valuable answers. So even before we get to the whole cost and value, let's look about some of the things that, setting the context on the difference of both. So cost centers typically are viewed as detrimental to the bottom line. Basically, all that you need to do is, you're given a specific budget, you do all your cost savings, you maximize your efficiencies and reduce costs. That's a basic assumption in a cost center. So relentlessly, you're really challenged every day to do more with less. Operational improvements, hiring and retaining talent. Basically, you get the best talent, or you get the talent in the market, see that they retain, and in a cost arbitrage kind of a scenario, you see how we can get the lowest and the lowest talent. Basically, operations is all about keeping the lights on, and that's where a cost center is. Though I said there is value in that, and some of these definitely overlap with the value. But what is a value center really? So really, a value center, as I see it, is something that is worthy of continued investment. The focus from a cost center to a value center is all about outputs to outcomes. And what I've listed here in the value is some of the things that have become high priority for some of the people running operations in India specifically. People and culture. Earlier we spoke about hiring and talent, but right now the major challenges and the things that the leaders are looking at is, what is your headcount intensity? How are they spread out across local and global? What are your L&D programs? Is there a career pathing? And we are going to the extent of discussing diversity. We are going to the extent of discussing branding. All this from a value center. Thought leadership. We are no longer a place where we are going to get the work done here, but rather we are going to create POCs. We are going to do those work which eventually can be exported outside. And that is the aspiration for thought leadership in a value chain. Revenue impact. Okay, you're doing a lot of engineering services here. You're supporting the global organization with a lot of dev, QA, a lot of architecture happening here. But is there a chance to actually impact revenue? I think that is huge from a value center, but that is the expectation from a value center. Portfolio ownership, India versus global. What is the mix of people around here? What is the intensity of your product managers here? What is the spread of your legacy growth and concept phases of your products? How much of design, development, testing happens here? How much of complex work, basically the COEs, the newer COEs, for example, AI/ML, automation is now here. So we are seeing a huge difference, as I see it, on what a cost center did and what a value center did. And I'm thinking the conversations on cost is, somehow depleting. It's more about value now, and it's about more value. And that is exactly what I'm going to talk about. So 2-3 things. One, I'm going to talk about the center, the India center. And I'm going to use some terms which I'll try to explain. So I'm going to talk about the center. I'm going to talk about the leadership. I'm going to talk about how the strategy office supports leadership. I think this will give a clear idea on how the value is delivered. So the analyst, I'm sure most of the companies work with analysts. You may be working with Gartners, Forresters, or you work with Indian company or India-based companies like Zenob. So, and the analysts have a good knack of creating new terms. And so we started with an offshore center, moved to a global in-house center. We had then global centers of excellence, and now it is global capability centers. Who are they? They are basically centers set up outside of, it could be majorly US, UK offices. So some stats for you. India accounts for 45% of the global capability centers in the world. So huge number, really nearly half of these global centers are in India. In Q1 alone, in 22 Q1, 70% of US headquartered MNCs came to India to establish GCCs. 50% of them were software and internet verticals, followed by BFSI and automotive. A huge investment in India. Now, here is where we need to probably take a step back and understand, why is this value? Are we really generating value? Yes, we are. And we are seeing the results now. I think from the past 2 decades, we have really moved the needle a lot here in the India operation. That's why we see all of this value. So how do we look at this global capability centers? And what I want to talk about is the problems that the global capability center leadership is trying to solve are different than the leaders who managed cost centers and then are slowly moving to manage the value centers. And we'll talk about that. In a VUCA world, in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world, I think we can talk about 2 different varied kind of problems. One is called the kind problems, and second is called the wicked problems. What are kind problems? We have certain environments, fixed environments. We have specific challenges. We have rules which are rigid, typically not changing too much. Those are the kind set of problems. What are the wicked problems? Uncertain environments, ill-defined challenges, few rules rapidly changing, external environment changing. So addressing the wicked problems will need a different set of skills. creativity. The person needs to be able to integrate a lot of solutions. The leadership needs to be completely flexible. All agility, we know we talk a lot about agility, and that starts with the leadership. What is a leader's charter? Let me look at some of the things that I've seen. Global R&D center. So the global office calls the India head and says, can you set up a global R&D hub? Can you open an innovation center? What does this innovation center mean really? The innovation center means that you are contributing to significant number of ideas from India, and that are not only going to target your product roadmap, but they are also going to be breakthrough innovations, which are going to contribute to a percentage of the global revenues. The newer challenges for the value centers. Backend development. Emerging tech COEs, we spoke about. Now, we as a company are focused into IoT, AI ops, data ops. You're basically a service management, an operations management. So we are exploring the newer areas. So emerging tech, newer COEs. How do you build a COE in India with very little knowledge of what's happening? Innovation labs, talent transformation. This is interesting because the discussions about getting in talent and retaining talent have gone to talent transformation. How do we upskill people? How do we let them keep abreast with changing scenarios and challenges that are happening outside? Newer technology, newer the whole scenario outside is changing. How do we transform inside? So talent has to be transformed. University partnerships, interesting. So a lot of the companies are looking at university partnerships. They're saying, why are you doing all the research? Can we tie up with universities to do some research? Co-creation, this has become a big thing for us. Now, we as a company are doing a lot of in this space. Can we co-create with a startup? Can we co-create with an academia? Can we actually partner with our partners and customers? These are some of the challenges and problem statements that the head of this capability center are getting. Industry partnerships, I'm sure we are all aware of it. Customers and partners are becoming the center of everything. So as you look at it, I think there are 3 focus areas for the India leader. He has to be extremely agile in delivering innovation. And like I said, the cycles of go-to-market have significantly reduced. So in that scenario, like we are looking at, are you going to innovate internally, or are you going to depend on others? Like, for example, your partners, are you going to co-create with them, or startups? Are you going to deliver innovative, connected, and customer-centric products and solutions? That is what we need to look at. Delighting customers. Who spoke about delighting customers to an India center? For example, our charter is, how do you get the engineer to focus on the customer? So we have a program called, Engineer Connect with Customer. What we really are doing is that at the end of the day, every customer looks at the customer map, his whole journey map, and understand where he can get to. So we are talking about really equipping him to think, to focus on customer first before he even starts building the product. I think that's great. That's great foundations that are being laid to the culture of us, which are typically a delivery center. Accelerate growth. Like I spoke about, is there a chance for us to influence revenue? Now the whole charter for the India leader has completely changed. These are some of the examples that I gave. Let's go to the next audience question. And here, the next question is, imagine you are the leader of the Global Capability Center. What are some of the traits you will need? Now put yourselves in the shoes of this leader and talk about what you think, what traits will he need. Isha, you confirm you can see?
Yes, I can see. And I would request to go back to the screen for our attendees to join, sign in the QR code again. They can scan the QR code and then they can answer. Thank you very much. Yeah, good to move to the next slide, Manoj. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Portfolio insights. Great. Celebrating diversity. Absolutely. Inclusive culture.
Manoj, we are also
Collaboration.
receiving answers in the chat window as well. Karthikeyan is
Yeah.
writing, managing in a VSCA word. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Isha, sorry, I can't see the chat. So, okay.
No worries. I'm
Uh,
reading this out to you.
okay. Okay. Sorry. 360-degree overview. Perfect. Adoption. Vision. Portfolio insights. Strategic mindset. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I think then we can go back to the presentation. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Okay. So who's this leader really? Who's and what is he trying to solve? He's basically trying to connect the dots. And these are some of the attributes, as I see it, is one of the most important traits of this leader, leadership. We are talking about entrepreneurship, entrepreneur leaders within the organization. They are the face of the organization internally. Not only business acumen, he's the one with the visionary thinking, he has a global influence and understands talent thoroughly. So leadership has changed its dimensions. He's internal. Influence, global influence, no longer can limit his vision to the India operations and APAC, but has to be global. Change orchestration, situational leadership through times of transformation and disruption. Able to articulate the purpose, be able to build change agents, break mindsets, and ultimately make it all business as usual. I think that's a big hard task for him. Customer connect. He's no longer limited to delivery. Now he needs to talk to customers. And as you're all aware that though our customers, ours is basically a US-based company, as most of yours will be outside of India. But there is a big install base of users in India. The leader starts to connect to these customers, bring them into the campus, talk to our leadership here, talk to the R&D leaders, talk to our SMEs. And this is one of the charter for us as a company. So we have something called the Customer Experience Center here, where we actually invite these customers to have a briefing kind of setup, come discuss, talk to us about your customers. So basically the role of the leader is changing. Global alignment. I mean, without, it's easy said than done, but he needs to have a seat at the table, without which the operations outside of US will suffer. So he has to be that guy who's really is able to connect with the CEO, able to connect with the executive leadership team, the extended SLT, and also the leadership within. Huge task. Engagement. He has to build in engagement programs not only in India but elsewhere, so that the whole workforce is engaged and working towards one mission to really bring things to life, as we spoke about. So absolutely challenging. So I say that today's leaders don't just lead companies, they lead ecosystems. Remember, their leadership is not limited to their India operations. No, they are the ones who are going to talk to the customers. They're going to talk to stakeholders outside of India. They're going to talk to vendors. They are the one who build the brand for the operations here. Which comes to my final question. Thank you all for answering. In the context of, now we looked at the Global Capability Center, what typically it does, what are the priorities. We looked at the leader in the GCC, how he's trying to solve some real complex and never done problems. Can I ask then, what you think will be the traits for an office that will support him or support the operations? Again, you can scan the QR code, and thank you for your answers. I can promise you this is the last one. If you're done scanning, let me know.
We are happy to answer these interesting questions, Manoj. The session has been very interactive so far. Thank you.
Okay, traits for the strategy office. So I'm calling it the strategy office. Let me make that assumption for you.
So while
Okay.
I am with you in this call, let me give you first answer. Traits for the strategy office, according to me, is being a value center for each and every cross-functional teams associated with this strategy office.
Great, great, Isha. So your business is to support the leader.
Yes.
What is your trait? I mean, that is a question, and sorry if the question is confusing, but yeah. Isha, anything on chat? Okay, cross-functional,
Not yet.
cultural,
Yes.
nice. KPI to action, absolutely. Driving alignment. Isha, please keep me honest on time. Driving alignment. Okay. Let me go back to our presentation. Thank you for that. Okay. Okay. So like they say, all factors being equal, and that is where all PM competencies being equal. Let me talk about something else that this team will need. Decision framework. Now, if you understand, the world outside of this leader is completely changing. He needs insights, he needs intelligence, he needs analytics, a combination of everything. The most important trait or that this office needs to bring in is a decision framework. Can you learn something new? Will the decision framework know everything? Absolutely not. He'll have to go find out, do some research, come back and build something, a business case for the leader. Integrator. He's an integrator connecting work streams that would otherwise remain siloed. The global capability center cannot function in silos. He needs all the leadership on board. The support team, as I call the strategy office, will really has to ensure that none of these views remain siloed. Communicator. We are all communicators. As a communicator, linking the leadership team and the broader organization. That typically is done with your all hands meeting. You do a lot of content on your internal intranet sites. You do a lot of talking. You do a lot of webinars internally. You are ensuring the leader that the communication of the strategy is actually percolated to the last engineer or the last member in your organization. And that is his aspiration. And that gap between strategy and execution is where the strategy office will bridge. Honest broker. The leader needs somebody to talk the truth and without taking any tough or considerations, right? I mean, that is always the case. So you have part of the senior leadership team, you're a strategy office, you're part of the senior leadership team. The leader needs an honest broker, really talking the truth without any bias. You act as an advisor and a confidant. As leaders, you speak to the middle management, you speak to the leadership, and really try to gain their confidence and trust. And what you're really doing is acting as their advisor, sometimes coaching them. And I'll talk about some of the initiatives that we are doing. Sometimes coaching them to actually move forward and contributing back to the organizations. So this is my understanding of what this office is all about. All PM competencies remain the same. All others need to be acquired is my honest observation of this. And how do we acquire them is again I'll quickly talk about. This is a place I'll just get into a case study. Like I said, BMC, we have done some things, and hopefully this study will help you. So we aspire to be strategic, we aspire to be competitive, we aspire to be an advantage. Now, what does strategic? Obviously, we all understand. We in some way have to be a value creation for our global counterparts. What is the advantage really? To see our products and services are more desirable to our customers, than our competitors. Is that possible in an India setting where customers are not face-to-face? Yes. Ability to produce something which is more efficient than our competitors. Possible? Yes. Ultimately, can we add more value or more, can we become more unique in the market so that we are better suited to, contribute back to the global, therefore differentiating in the market. So this was our aspiration when we started. What informs our strategy? So starting from left top, leadership. Our CEO and president, he's completely bought into the India Center. We have a direct link with him. He is the one who directs us, and I'll talk a little about how we do that. Then the next one is the executive leadership, his ELT. They will have around 10 or 12 people. Each of them we have connects with, so that nothing is broken, nothing is siloed. Ecosystem, our peer companies, startups, academia. Startups is something we started off and it shut down basically, but that's a tough area to do. But peer companies and academia, we have made inroads. Ecosystem, talk to them. What are they doing next? What are our competitors saying? What are our companies saying? On the right hand side, BMC customer, talk to our customers. We are not siloed here. We are not an operations only. We are one who are going to add value. And that value will only come when we talk to our customers. What are their pain points? Can we address that locally, even before it hits our support teams? It is possible. You bring them to our centers. We talk about their challenges. That's another way to connect. India leaders. Every leader in India, nobody can sit on the sidelines. Everybody is brought into the system, and everybody is aligned to our strategy. Analysts. You have internal analyst teams. We have Gartner, Zinnov. We have, the Foresters. Bring that analyst information also into the mix. Why are we doing all this? We're really trying to see where are our strengths, vulnerabilities, where are in this mix, where are the relative contributions that each of these people can make to the India operations. They are all interlinked, they are all interdependent. But ultimately, the aspiration for the leader is that how do we get into a scenario where there is shared interest, shared pain points, and a shared vision. Shared vision from the leader to the ELT, to the ecosystem, India, to the BMC customers, everybody. This was our aspiration. This is what informs us. This is our yearly cadence. How do we do it really? On the topmost left-hand corner, we have something called the VSEM. Vision, I don't know, I'm sure you would have used it in some way. It is basically the vision, strategy, execution metrics. At the beginning of the year, or rather the fourth quarter of the year, we actually define our vision statement. This is our vision statement: become an autonomous digital enterprise, driving customer-centric innovations through cutting-edge technologies. This is our vision. We build our vision, our strategy, execution metric, not in isolation. We build that in alignment to our corporate VSEM. Corporate also has a VSEM. Under corporate, the functions have a VSEM. So there is a VSEM for R&D, there's a VSEM for the functions, there's a VSEM for sales, there's a VSEM for marketing, everything. We align all of our VSEM to them. Ultimately, what we are doing is not working anything in silos. We are contributing value back based on the exact vision of our company. The next is OKRs. So OKRs have been a good tool for us, really. So we look at 2 or 3 leads. We look at 2 or 3 objectives every quarter, and then we have a bottoms up setting up of goals, where that means is we actually have a QBR, and the QBR is the time when we all get together, we look at our the VSEM, and then actually start building our OKRs for every work stream and focus areas. So this year we have something called create customer value, build world-class products, propel innovation, then we have driving operational excellence. So these become our pillars. And from the pillars, we derive our OKRs. And from the OKRs, we define our objectives, key activities, and quarterly go through the time of really planning, communicating, and implementing the strategy. Everything is on a dashboard. This is very important because you tend to be siloed. But when you go for a buy-in, global is unsure of what you're doing. So we have built our own dashboard, but we have also ensured that this dashboard is part of the global dashboard, the global 360, where actually CEO and his directs go to. So everything is transparent. Reporting is absolutely transparent. Then we get into a time of how do we align the BMC India priorities to the global? How do we map every BMC priority from the initiatives that are done in India to global and every vertical within the global VSEM? Sorry. How do we, and then build all the multi-year roadmaps and then get into change programs. So, a state of unfreeze, change, sustain. There are some programs that are really heavy lifting where you really have to run a change program. We do not have a change management practice separately, but typically we do most of it with the strategy office does most of it. So really, this is our yearly cadence. And all this is based on, so what you saw in the earlier slide of the things that are informing our strategy is all brought into our planning session during our VSEM so that everything is clear, everything is aligned. Our stakeholders know exactly what to know. During every all hands QBRs, everything is trickling down to the organization. And all OKRs, again, published on our intranet. Everybody knows what they need to do and people can contribute. Isha, please keep me honest on time. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is how we run it. So we have the strategy office, and I think if you have a strategy office, has to be directly reporting into our GCC head. So we'll have a transformation leader, we'll have a program management office, we have media, and a lot of videos and content, brand buildings. A lot of it is done. So if you look at my slides, a little bit jazzy because I have a team with me who helps me with this. So so this team directly works with the head. Now, the primary purpose of this strategy is not only aligned to the GCC and the global. This core working committee is going to be the deal breaker. If you do not have any leader aligned to your VSEM, it's all set up for failure. So what we do is every pillar have two leaders, and that is across R&D, IT, services, corporate functions, sales leaders, marketing. And those two leaders will lead those pillars. What they need to do is align themselves to the VSEM, create the OKRs, and then they start actually percolating that to the wider organization by also building, the teams. And the teams are then help them, and finally they get things moving. Okay, so this has been our story. So we have actually looked at some big rocks captured from 2014 to 2022, but started a little earlier. But these are our big rocks. Innovation. We had an incubation center in India. We had 3 products, BMC products rolled out from India. A great achievement there. Product leadership. Now we are just not adding teams for cost arbitrage or for we are adding people here for talent, and there is where the dynamics have changed. We are more than 60% of the R&D of BMC Global is in India. Revenue and market influence. Like I said, we run the customer experience center. All these are charters from the India office. What does it do? Really influence revenue. So over 100 million of revenue influence because we got our customer experience center into the sales cycle. And because of that, every customer who walks in and ultimately buys our product really is influencing revenue. And we are able to do that. Thought leadership. We have a lot of our leaders not only building content internally, but also externally doing a lot of sessions, trying to build the community of engineers outside. Employee engagement, easier said than done, really aligning the whole organization to what we do. And that's why we were, the best places to work in 2022. We didn't do after that because we are really looking internally on how best we can, move things forward. So really, the move to value was these big rocks. And without big rocks, it is very difficult for somebody to cite the operations outside of their global centers. And if you look below, R&D, customer success, sales, support, every department completely engaged and supportive of what we do. Okay, some external validation, best customer-centric award, Gen Y employee engagement, best place to innovate, blah, blah. I mean, the important thing is that we were doing the right things. We got some external validation. So, it was a good thumbs up for us when we started operations because it gave us very good feedback that we were doing the right things. Okay. I think I'm going to close in 1 or 2 slides, but the most important thing is what's in it for us. And let me just throw a curveball at you to think a little differently. We spoke about product leadership. We spoke about two personas, product leadership, and then we spoke about the change maker. Let me talk about a specialist and a generalist. Focused on specialization, generalization. I look at my own career. I did my PMP certification and suddenly found out that I obviously was an accidental project manager. Suddenly found out that there's a method to all this madness. I was so excited to do that. Some of you in this call are program managers, change managers, agile consultants, specializing in your own domains and areas. Great. But the question that I asked before, how do we solve the wicked problems? How do we solve problems that people have never seen? How do we solve problems that are going to emerge only because a lot of investments are coming back, to the India operations? How do we prepare people for, to look at these wicked problems? There's never been a greater need for the global capability centers in shortening the gap between strategy and execution. The GCC needs project managers, program managers. They need the foundations. And I'm not going to get into the discussion of specialists and generalists. I think we have really spoken a lot about it globally in various forums. I'm sure PMI has a view. I'm sure PMO Global has a view. Everybody has a view whether you need to be a specialist or a generalist. My view is we need everything. But can I also challenge you to look at being a generalist? I want to do that with a small story. So two people here, Tiger Woods. So Tiger's father introduced golf to him at the age of 2. He defeated his father at the age of 11. He became the youngest junior US junior amateur master at the age of 15. He is a perfect specialist. Started early, built his career, and was at one time one of the greatest golfers. The story of Federer. He spent his time playing basketball, handball, skiing, wrestling, swimming, table tennis, skateboarding, and finally he got to playing tennis. Specialization is useful. You will see in a lot of books written about Tiger Woods, but you will see very little written about generalists like Federer, who tried everything and then ultimately knew probably his best fit was tennis. But then, as he himself says, he went through all of that, realizing that because he played all of it, his hand and eye coordination improved because he played all of it. While specialization is useful to solve our kind problems that we spoke about, in a modern world which is ever changing, where wicked problems are going to look us in the eye, we need a different set of an understanding of how we're going to address it. How do we capture and cultivate the power of, like Federer? Is it breadth? Does our vision need to be diverse? Do we need to look at interdisciplinarily, explore interdisciplinary things? Typically what they say is generalists are the people who are more creative, more agile, and able to make connections across all that they see, observe. So my challenge to you is, you are a specialist, you're a generalist, doesn't matter. Here I'm not putting any names to anybody. Frankly, the question is, if you are a specialist and you're early in your career, my advice to you is dabble into different things. You are an agile coach, great. Look at what others are doing in other areas. You are a safe, certified practitioner. Look at how you can implement it in marketing, for example. There are use cases for that. Look beyond your own focus areas. What that will do is really broaden your horizon. And what that is going to do is really, really prepare you for looking at those wicked problems differently. And what research has shown is generalists typically, because of their varied experiences, are able to see things differently, view things differently. So my advice to you, if you're starting a career, do those things. I'm sure this community, PMO Global, there are other communities, join these communities, are also places to learn. If you're further down the career, I would recommend that you look at being a generalist. A generalist basically looking at an aspiration to be as part of the strategy office. because strategy office needs people who really are going to add value back to the organization. They have a different set of rules. Okay, this is my final slide, and I hope I can inspire you with these three things. Please, I would request you cultivate breadth. Read a lot. Read across domains. Read, get involved in things outside your own domain. Now, for example, if you're never met a customer, meet a customer. Ask your manager, can I meet a customer? Can I know his pain points? It will improve your and cultivate your breadth of understanding. Diverse experiences. Now, if you're within your BU and you're contributing to your BU, look at opportunities for secondments. Look at opportunities where you can go and work on projects outside your own domain. That will give you diverse experience. Experimentation. I can't say enough of experimentation, because the strategy office is all about experimentation. Everyone, including me, one of the biggest priorities for us is new charters. What are those new charters where nobody has gone before? So really, you go analyze, you talk to analysts, you talk to customers. Where are those areas that we can add value back to global? You're always thinking, you're always dreaming, you always want to go ahead. So these are some of the things that I would do as an advice. And the key takeaway for me is, you looked at the global capability centers, which is increasing. 45% of those centers are being set up in India. A great opportunity for us to all add value. And I believe the project management community is the community that can get into these offices and have a seat at the table and change things. Then we spoke about what the new challenges of the leader. No longer operational excellence, no longer innovation by giving 500 ideas to global. Nobody's interested in those 500 ideas. What are those ideas that are going to get into the product? The leaders' challenges are changing. They need people like us who can help them run their office. And lastly, we looked at who can be part of the strategy, and how can you add value to the strategy office. And I think that is where our challenge is as we move on. So there is no silver bullet. There is no blueprint. We have to build our own blueprints. In BMC, we built some kind of a blueprint, which helped us scale. And I hope you are able to, gather some insights from what I spoke about. And Isha, thank you all for with your time. And Isha, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Manoj. I'm still in awe. I am thankful, very, very thankful to you for such an insightful session and such a beautiful presentation to all of us. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience to have being here with you and looking at your slides, giving us more insights of what goes into the transformation from a value chain of a PMO and a journey beyond. I have few questions for you before we close out, and I have one new member which I want to introduce to you all from the PMO leader. In the interest of time, I'll quickly take the question and then we'll move forward. So the question to you, Manoj, from Gaurav Dupar is, how does your PMO function contribute to a strategic partnership? A quick answer.
Gaurav, it is all about partnerships. So we build partnerships not only in the organization. For example, for me, the R&D leader is my partner. For me, the customer is a partner. For me, anybody, for example, the analyst who informs me, gives me insights, is a partner. So really, partnership to build my strategies across, diverse, in the not only within, but in the ecosystem.
All right. I'll now invite Jhansi in this call. Jhansi, can you hear me? Jhansi, am I audible to you?
Hey, yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. And here is Jhansi. Let me introduce Jhansi. She joins us from the PMO leader. We have this session in collaboration with the PMO leader, and she is the SPOC from the PMO leader. I'll invite her on stage, and I'll invite her to say a few lines about this collaboration and this wonderful session and then we'll close this session for today. Over to you, Jhansi.
Thanks for the introduction, Isha. So just to let you know, this is our first webinar in collaboration with the PMO leader, which is a global community, and PMOGA India Hub. We actually join hands to produce valuable content for our industry. And I really need to thank Joe and Gaurav for making this collaboration happen. And it's a wonderful session. And special thanks to Manoj Thomas, who is our guest today, and who also provided insights on how PMO can transfer from cost center to a value center. There's a lot of key takeaways out of the session. I'm sure this is a very productive session. And a few items to call out is the traits of a leader and what is really is needed for a strategy office. And also, he did talk about the tools that can be used to align the goals and how you can prioritize and measure them. And very importantly, he did talk a very wonderful way of saying what works best in order to achieve the goals. And we also discuss about the role expectations as a specialist and also as a journalist. And also there are a lot of opportunities available out there. So the audience out here, I'm sure there's a lot of takeaways. And especially I wanted to say, Manoj, thanks saying there's for sharing the knowledges and also making this as an interactive sessions. Thanks again, Manoj, for that. Last but not least, and many thanks to the audience for joining and experiencing the Friday learnings. And I'm sure this Friday has been an amazing and productive learnings for you. But before I could actually wind up, I want to say with a few lines, please do follow us, audience, by becoming a member to receive free learnings and exchange of knowledge and information. Once again, thank you so much for joining the session.
Thank you, Jansi. Thank you, Isha. Thank you all.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you, Jhansi. Thank you, everyone who has joined us for this session. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and a good night to all of you. Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.